And you are signed on to continue through the end of 2021, overseeing all the creative elements of the company. But at the same time, Bob Chapek is going to be running the day-to-day business. For you as executive chairman and you as CEO, will that create confusion?
We're not really concerned about that. Bob is going to be running the company. What this is about really is, we believe, a really good succession process and a really smart transition process. We're not concerned at all about creating any confusion.
Welcome into this special 89th episode of Inside 300. I'm your host, Brian Perry. Today, we are talking about one story and one story only. It is the feud heard around the world, the Disney world, I should say. Thank you. I'll be back Saturday. Apparently, reports are coming out that Bob Chapek, current CEO of Disney, has had an extremely awkward falling out with former CEO Bob Iger. Now, Chapek was appointed by Iger to be CEO of the company back in that memorable month of February 2020 when Bobby Iger said, "I'm out. Thanks for having me. It's been 15 years. I've had a good time. My hair looks good. I'm retiring." Chapek took over. Then the pandemic struck, and the rest is history. So how did we get to a point in which the two barely talk to each other? To find out, we have to examine the last 2 decades to explore the careers, mindsets, and differences between the two men. Now, to be fair, anyone succeeding Iger was going to have a difficult time. When you look at Iger's predecessor, what was the polarizing Michael Eisner? Eisner, of course, had a 21-year tenure and oversaw the creation of Disney Cruise Line, the renaissance in Disney animation, and the transformation of Walt Disney World into the 4-park, 2-water park resort we know today. But Eisner's gambles obviously also didn't always pay off. He oversaw the launch of Euro Disney, which was a disaster. He had the public feud with Walt's nephew Roy that influenced the book Disney War, and the ratings of his newly acquired TV station ABC were down in the dumps. This eventually led to only 43% of Disney shareholders expressing confidence in Eisner in a 2004 poll. 18 months later, Eisner was gone and Iger was in. Now, unlike Eisner, Iger didn't have as many glaring swings and misses. Now, he had a few missteps here and there, but for every misstep, it was a slam dunk, grand slam, touchdown all rolled into one. How about this? In his first week as CEO, Iger met with Steve Jobs to mend the relationship between Apple and Disney. This eventually led to Disney products being the first digital items available on the iPod video. So if you wanted to watch Desperate Housewives or Lost, you could buy an episode for $1.99.
And who owns ABC? Disney. I know these guys. We have done a landmark deal, which we're announcing here today.
The mended relationship led to Disney being able to buy Pixar for $7.4 billion from Jobs.
We've actually enjoyed a great relationship with Steve, as he just mentioned as well, through Pixar. And it's great to be able to announce an extension of the relationship with Apple. Not with Pixar, with Apple. Maybe another time, we'll see.
And that was just the beginning, because next came Marvel, then came Lucasfilm, most recently 21st Century Fox, all acquisitions that could be considered some of the greatest financial investments in Hollywood history. Now, don't forget Shanghai Disney Resort. That's an achievement that Iger considers to be one of his greatest. And finally, kind of coming full circle back to the digital videos that he put on the iPod, Iger oversaw the launch of Disney Plus. And then, just like that, on the heels of his autobiography, The Ride of a Lifetime, Iger said, "Thanks so much, I'm out."
What?
So Disney and its fans are kind of caught off guard. Enter Bob Chapek to lead a company that didn't really want to say goodbye to Bob Iger yet. And now the timing of this couldn't be any worse. You're talking about February of 2020. Now, what happened right after February of 2020? Yes, a global pandemic that shuts down the world. So you have successful, respected Hollywood CEO handing over the keys to his multi-billion-dollar media corporation just in time for the COVID-19 quarantine. Now, on March 11th, a day before Disney announced that they were shutting down the parks, Iger was quoted by saying, "I can't think of a better person to succeed me in this role." Very nice. Chapek, equally nice, responded by saying, I've watched Bob lead this company to amazing new heights, and I've learned an enormous amount from that experience. Look at that, 2 big shots at Disney getting along, both named Bob, everything's gonna be fine. Not so fast. 1 month later and 46 days after Iger said he was leaving, things take a turn. The New York Times reaches out to Iger to ask him about his standing with Disney, considering, now that the world is closed. Iger responds in an email that goes public that says, "A crisis of this magnitude and its impact on Disney would necessarily result in my actively helping Bob Chapek and the company contend with it, particularly since I ran the company for 15 years. Yeah, no big deal. Just ran the company for 15 years. The way I see it is that Iger says, I'm gonna stick around. The board wants me to stick around, make sure things go smoothly, considering the world has now shut down since I handed you the keys to the Ferrari. In my opinion, yeah, it makes sense. Things are different now. In Chapek's opinion, what the f? According to those close to Chapek, he was furious when this Times article came out. He wasn't looking for a hero to come in and save the day. He thought in his mind that he could do it himself. I don't need Iger's help. Let him leave. This is my show now. Now, according to CNBC, where this entire story broke, Iger and Chapek barely spoke to each other after Iger came back because they saw things so differently. So 2020 progresses, then 2021, then the Scarlett Johansson thing happens. Remember the whole Scarlett Johansson thing? She's got the lawsuit, she's not happy, Black Widow's going to Disney Plus, I'm not making enough money. So Chapek says, well, here's your salary. Everybody look, she made $20 million in this move. Okay, so that's not something Iger would have done because he's buddy-buddy with all of Hollywood. Chapek is more on the business side, so he couldn't care less. The issue here is that Chapek didn't talk to Iger before revealing Scarlett's salary. So now Iger's annoyed. We already had Chapek who's furious, so now we've got 2 angry minds at the head of the happiest company on earth, I guess. Next up came Iger's going away party at the end of 2021, where he invited around 50 people to his nice little mansion in the suburbs of LA. Chapek was invited, unlike me, which is unfortunate. Next time, invite me, Bob. Iger, just look me up. But apparently, according to partygoers who chose to remain anonymous, the 2 barely spoke. They sat at different tables, Iger with his pal Steven Spielberg, Chapek with his direct reports, which just sums up their 2 personalities to a T. And then Iger gave a 10-minute speech thanking everyone for coming and saying Disney's in good hands, though we barely mentioned Chapek by name. The whole thing was extremely awkward, and again, according to partygoers, the tension was palpable. So how could things get any worse? Enter 2022. Iger has now left. He's not on the board. He's not the temporary Disney CEO. We are now all riding on the Chapek train. And what's going to derail this train? Well, politics. Recently, Chapek sent his infamous email to Disney employees in which he nor the company denounced the Don't Say Gay bill down in Florida. This, of course, causes tremendous outcry and outbursts from Disney employees. And a week later, Chapek backtracks and says, oh, never mind, I'm meeting with DeSantis. We're not cool with this. Now, the caveat in all this is the fact that back in February, Iger denounced the bill immediately. He said, nope, I don't like this. Now, again, he's not part of Disney anymore, but a lot of Disney fans saw that, looked at Chapek, and Chapek's response was to send the internal email that said, we are not denouncing the bill, only to backtrack and denounce the bill because of the public outcry. Now, one thing to take away from this is the fact that Iger was never afraid to share his political views, even at the head of the Disney company. He then even flirted with a presidential campaign in 2020, which ultimately didn't come to fruition. Chapek, on the other hand, has decided to remain silent on controversial issues. So what does it all mean? Look, all in all, it ties back to the shocking article from CNBC that revealed this whole feud. They said it's a difference in emotional intelligence. No matter how you feel about him, Bob Chapek was chairman of the Disney parks through groundbreaking transformations all across the world. He's proved his worth through the years to the point in which the Disney board and Bob Iger said, yep, this is the guy we want driving the bus. And while he may prove his worth behind the scenes, it's his public image, hard exterior, and level of charisma that is hard for Disney fans to accept. For whether or not you agreed with Iger's decisions, his political views, or his insane salary, he provided Disney with a face, other than Mickey's, that they were happy to slap on the cover of Forbes and Bloomberg. Now combine that with all he achieved as Disney CEO, plus the fact that he took over for a company where only 43% of shareholders had any confidence in Michael Eisner, made it an uphill battle for Chapek from the jump. Now, Chapek's contract is up at the beginning of 2023. Iger, on the other hand, is investing his money into a metaverse startup company run by a 29-year-old, which is amazing. The difference between these two men and the fact that they ran the Walt Disney Company back-to-back is astonishing. We'll see if Disney stands firm behind their new leading man going into next year. So what do you think? Where would you rank the last 3 Disney CEOs? Again, we have businessman Bob Chapek, the suave Bob Iger, and the wild card, Mr. Michael Eisner. Let us know in the comments below. That'll do it for this episode of Inside 300. If you like what you saw, be sure to subscribe. Click that bell icon. This way you're notified every time we come out with brand new content. I've been your host, Brian Perry. I will see you next time. And as always,
bye-bye.